Alright, welcome to another video here on building a Shopify apps, especially build an example app. So in the previous video, I went over to what is Shopify, which is this e-commerce that allow merchants to simplify all of its commerce operations, such as product inventory, product management, inventory management, payment processors, as well as shipping options. So Shopify here allows you to build and customize an online store, sell in multiple channels, whether it is social media or online marketplace across multiple places like in-person, web, mobile, brick and mortar shops, or pop-up shops, which is this temporary retail space. Okay, so here Shopify, even on their particular blog entry about what is Shopify, so Shopify can be seen as set of layers, where the layer 1 you have the Shopify core apps or products, where Shopify allow merchants, once you buy any Shopify plan, to turn your idea into a business and start selling. So we provide templates for the look and feel, as well as tools to sell, integrated payment options, an easy and fast, reliable, secure checkout, SEO and marketing tools, and they all part of the Shopify core product. And if you want to fine-tune even further your stores, you can get access to the Shopify APIs and dev tools. So the layer 2 is the Shopify additional product and service, right? Such as the easy access to capital, something called the banking, where they have is the balance plus the capital, which is something interesting because Shopify not only is able to act like sort of this payment platform, such as PayPal or Stripe or Wise, but also it can provide funds to your business, which is pretty hooked up to me. And they say that they do that with zero equity. Of course, because after all, where are your business exactly? In their platform. So they already own your e-commerce. In any case that something wrong happened. So that's it. Okay, this second layer, the Shopify additional products and service. Okay, so they provide is ways to first identify that your business is unique, and as your business grows, your needs evolve, and that's why they provide you product and service to grow in their platforms. So for example, easy access to capital, receiving funds, and accelerated payment options. And the layer 3 is apps built by trust partner, okay, such as in my case the client contact me because he is a third-party developer that builds Shopify applications and deploy that on the Shopify app stores. Okay, so anything you can dream up, there is an app that can help make it reality. So from the latest estimate app to the hottest new social media platform ad tool. And also it provides a marketplace for Shopify experts. So okay, this is what is Shopify, right? And then I look at why Shopify. Well, because it has a wide and huge e-commerce ecosystem, is global, or in this case, is spanning over 175 countries. So it empowers creative expressions. It also has one of the most integrated commerce platforms out of the box. It absorbs the unnecessary complexity when it comes to the commerce operations. Again, product management, inventory, payment processors, and shipping options. And Shopify is built to scale with you. So when it comes to the Shopify features, right? So here look at the create commerce, such as storefronts. What they provide you is tools to customize your customer experience, social channels and integration, as well as sales channels. Okay, so to promote and sell your products across different social media networks or marketplace in a centralized place, Shopify. Shop app like this, where aka this is a digital shop assistant. The POS or retails is provide you a couple tools to make the customer experience easy to use, manage staff, track inventory, and more. Creator tools, so not only focus on the content, but also to build a thriving business. Store data, media, and media content. Brand logo for growth tools. So this is something interesting. So they provide is, for example, logo maker, slogan maker, QR code generators, and other tools, and the domain hosting. Okay, so everything will be hosted in a secure way in their Shopify servers. And when I look at the connect to every customer here, okay, so connect to every customer here, blah, 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 blah. I didn't copy that because it was pretty extensive at that moment. So they provide is a checkout. Okay, so they provide is where it is connect to every customer. So they provide is a checkout. Okay, a simple, fast, secure, reliable checkout. So to convert your users into clients. The other is Shopify Markets, because now you can sell globally. Okay, like Shopify Markets, customer engagement and marketing tools, because I am more as software developer, and I ask myself, okay, so what actually does it mean this customer engagement and marketing tools, especially the customer segmentation? So according to this, this is the customer segmentation, right? So according to Shopify, Forbes, and HubSpot, so the TLDR is customer segmentation is a way to group customers with shared characteristic, whether it's age or gender, ethnicity. So the whole point of this is to allow the marketers to understand the interests and the buying pattern of the consumers, which is pretty. It can be dark, okay, as the Netflix series, dark series. Okay, it can be dark. Okay, but in any case, so after all, they actually what they're doing is that, right, is to just to play a devil advocate for themselves. Is okay, we need to understand is our customers, their interests and their buying patterns, because we can offer is the right product and service to solve their challenge. Allegedly, but in any case, so messaging inbox and chats. So messaging inbox and chats. Actually, in Shopify provide is this built-in platform. So all of this communication happen inside of the platforms. Marketing insight and analytics. Okay, where you can now make informed decisions based on the data that you get from that. Okay, Shop app, as we mentioned, is a digital shopping assistant like this. In business to business Shopify, where now you can deliver experience to your business to business. Okay, deliver customer experience your business to business customer will love. With Shopify, you can manage both your business to business and direct to consumer customers, orders, inventory, and from one place with separate storefront. So it allows you with business to business on Shopify to have two different storefront where you can tailor a you can tailor it and you can tailor it or a business to business experience and direct to consumer. Selling strategies, something interesting here. Selling strategies. So drive conversion by offering shoppers unique and custom prices and promotion. Leveraging selling plans like pre-orders, try before you buy, raffles, created discount strategy, and more to encourage shoppers to make the purchase. Build predictable revenue stream, turn one-time customer into recurring, and increase customer loyalty with subscription apps and API. So with the selling strategy here is this. So leverage selling plans like pre-orders, try before you buy, raffles, create a discount strategy, and more. Okay. Try before you buy, raffles, and create a discount strategy and more to encourage shopper to make the purchase. Build predictable revenue stream, turn one-time customer into recurring, and increase customer loyalty with subscription apps and API. And the merchandise. So from visual display to product bundling, special offers, and more. Merchandising can help you promote and sell products in your store. So this is for product promoting or product promotions. Okay, and when it comes to business catalyst to grow and scale, again, we're talking about the Shopify features. So central admin, okay, so you can manage your business from a central location where you can access to from anywhere as long as you have internet. Okay, back office, Shopify fulfillment network and delivery. Okay, which is this. This is something interesting because by centralizing everything, okay, of the commerce operations, product management, inventory management, payment processors, as well as shipping, okay, so they have a shipping partner platform here So they have a shipping partner platform. Okay, so they can manage your supply chain from order setup to printing labels and tracking. Keep the backend of your business running smoothly. This is also something interesting. Banking, which they give, is banking and capital. Okay, again, this is part of the second layer of the Shopify additional products and service. Okay, so where they offer is you easy access to capital or accelerate payment options. Shop pays and installments. This is to provide you an encryption for your checkout, so your customers can it makes easy for customers to save their details and allow them to pay in full at checkout while preserving their data or while encrypting their data. And then you got the mobile app. Okay, and the automation flow for this, meaning is especially connect with customers at critical moment in their journey using Shopify automations for customer service. Okay, all right. So this is the features of Shopify, right? So create commerce everywhere, connect to every customers, and build catalyst to grow and scales. Okay, so there is a lot of jargon in there, but the focus on this video, okay, is to look at the third layer of Shopify, which is building apps as a third-party developer. Okay, and here with Shopify apps overview and build an example, in the past video I follow is the example of how to create an application. If we take a look at this, how to create an application like this. So how to create an application, which is initialize the application in the command line and generate the working directory that contains the code, install all the dependency for your app, including the Shopify CLI, and then install your app on the development store. And also understand here, especially on the Shopify apps, how Shopify apps, and what is Shopify apps, right? Which after all, it extends the functionality from the Shopify where third-party developers can build in features to merchants or customers. So how this Shopify apps fit into Shopify? Well, so once the merchants install and interact with your application, they can add features to enhance the customer experience, or in this case, add features to enhance the buyer experience of customers, as well as enhance the merchant's experience in the Shopify admin or in the Shopify point of sale, okay, and integrated with third-party service. So understanding the bigger picture here of what you can do, then I start to create the application and to understand much more where I'm going, okay, and to understand the know-how of this, okay. So yeah, I already built this, where I already create this application, and yesterday I focuses on building an example app about the QR code example, right? So after all, this application is designed to create QR codes, is to perform CRUD operations, like create, read, update, and delete QR codes, as well as include certain discounts, okay, which is a link either to the online store product page or directly to the checkout with the product added to the cart. And we're actually addressing is a real life problem that most commerce actually have when it comes to manage the product management, inventory management, payments, and shipping using the QR code. So in this example, Shopify will demonstrate, and also I'm learning about what are the common patterns, components, and features in Shopify. So the QR code address a real world merchant needs and integrate seamlessly with the Shopify admin user face. So users can perform CRUD operations. So yes, I recently, or in the past videos, I look at the Shopify app bridge as well as the Polaris component library. So the app bridge enables to communicate with the Shopify admin as well as render important UI element for your app outside of the app iframe. Whereas Polaris provides you a collection of user interface elements that can be reused across the Shopify system. So okay, with those two main components, okay, the Shopify app bridge and Polaris, okay. So yesterday I went through build the front end, right? So the whole point of this is to focus is first on what you're gonna do at the front end. In this case is to, well, create the home page when you're gonna render is the save QR codes, okay, as well as create a new page, the create QR code page, and edit a QR code page. Somewhat trivial as an experienced web developer. However, Shopify has a particular way of doing that. And this is exactly what I learned yesterday or in the past video. So how is Shopify, how is the way of building frontend in Shopify? Okay. So yesterday I started development server. I add an empty state and loading markup, okay, and starting to see what are the components library we're going to use, like the app bridge. Remember, the app that allows to communicate with the Shopify admin, as well as render important UI elements in your app outside of the iframe. Okay, like this. So you use navigate, title bar, and loading. You have Polaris, this collection of UI elements that can be reused across Shopify system. Okay, so create your home page with an empty state, which is this. I'm not going to dive deep into the code. This is something that I did yesterday. And then we have this. This is the empty state, or I mean the loading state. Okay, and this is the empty state. Okay, cool. The next step is to now create a QR code form. So the forms enable the user to do the following: select a product QR, QR code. Select whether the QR code will point to a product page or a popular car. Include a discount code in the QR code. Preview the QR code destination. Download the QR code as an image file and delete a QR code. So because we're using forms, and now I'm looking at the way how Shopify with React actually enables this interactivity in an easy way. So you need to add Shopify React form to your dependency, which is something that I did. Okay, and now look at all the components library and package, as well as the component that we need to do in order to create a form with the previous features, right? So select a product for QR, select whether a QR code will point to product page or popular car, including a discount code in your QR. Preview the QR code destination, download the QR code as an image, and delete a QR code. Okay, this is a lot of the features or functions and components that we're going to make use of this. Use authentication fetch and the Shopify React form. So the devil is on the detail, all right? Because yesterday we dived deep into this section, to the front end. I'm not going to describe what's going on here. And then once you create a QR code form, right? Export that component so you can now use that in the as part of your route. This is something interesting because the using is the file-based routing, so you don't have to define any route configuration files. In fact, this is something that is doing behind the scenes by Shopify, where their use is Vite import meta glob and React router. So the point here is that since I'm quite familiar with Vue and Nux, how the way they do things, so yeah, pretty basically is this. The using is a file-based routing, meaning that whether the way how do you define is your page, okay, it will or allow you to create new codes or for that particular page, or accept parameters in your page like this, right? So now that we know that, it is time to create that folder structure. But before this, here is add the routers, or in this case the routes. For that, instead of the navigation menu, it used the routes, which is a particular component from their for React, like React router here. Okay, so route page in here. This is the entry point of your application, meaning that's right. Okay, so it enables this behavior. So about the writing a Node apps template, it enables this behavior like this on the client side. So the Node app template uses a file-based routing to make creating new page easier. Any GS files that you add to /web frontend page becomes a URL. Each of these files must contain a default export that is a component. If the URL entering in the app can be matched for a file in the page. Exactly. So if the URL entering in the app can be matched to a file in the page directory, so the page not found is rendered. So this functionality is provided by Vite Import Meta Club and React Router. Interesting. So this is what happened, what it's doing behind the scenes. And you need to actually, instead of using the navigation menu, so you're gonna remove the navigation menu and only leave the routes. Again, this is for this particular applications, the QR code. Okay, so the next is actually define is the page. So now that we already created the empty state and the loading markup on the entry on the first page, right, in our home page, then we create the QR code page. Whether it will have is the loading states as well as the form. Okay. Now here we're going to create is the QR code page. So it is actually something pretty simple. You're going to define is under the page the QR code new.js, all right, and render that QR code form. Awesome. So in your browser, from the app home page, click create QR code to navigate to the new QR code page. And there you got it. So now if you want to take a look at the edit page, okay, because this is once you look at the create new code here, now when it comes to view that QR code or edit, well, this is what you have. This is all the code that you need for this, as well as loading is a mock data for that. You can see this. So this page should look like the following screenshot. Note that the progress bar at the top of the page is provided using the app bridge loading component. So in /web/frontend/page keyword code, set is loading to false to preview a page populated with placeholder data. So this is the edit code when loading in a loading state, and then where you can see is the data populated in that form. Okay, and add a list components to the home page. This is to actually render and see is the save QR code. So create a list of create the list components like this, and using is now component library from the app bridge. Use navigate. Okay, anytime you want to make navigation across different pages, you'll have to rely on the app bridge. Okay, something like this. The Polaris, okay, the Polaris icons, the Shopify React hook like use media, and the DJS like this. As I mentioned before, I'm not going to dive deep into the code. Just wants to highlight when is the route, when is the components are rendered like this, card index table, and here you're gonna pass this resource name, item count, headings, selectable false, loading, and here is you're gonna render is the row markup. Exactly, you're gonna render is this component. You're gonna map all of this. And this is something interesting because even though that these files are huge, okay, well, it contains 165 line of code, from the bigger picture, what it's doing is that it's following the atomic design, starting from the basic components, then scale that up or zoom out as well. Okay, so include the list components in the components index. That's right. So after you create the list component to the home page, now it is time to export that in the components and actually make use of that in the home page, which is the index.js. So here you should be able to load that. This is before and this is after. So the layout section, you're gonna render this loading markup, QR code markups, and empty state, right? And actually add this here for that. And this is how the entire page should look like. And there you got it here. Okay. Okay. And if you want to include this in full width, add full width, QR code markup, so the page component, this line controls whether to display the page using full width layout depending on whether a QR code exists. If a QR code exists, then the page will use a full width layout. Again, this is part of the component or the property from the page component. That this page components comes from the Polaris. I'm assuming. No, that page components actually comes from the the page component actually comes from it must come from the average. So let me take a look here. Page. Okay. That's right. From Polaris. Okay. The UI component. Okay. Cool. Okay. So now, in today's video, I'm going to focus is on the backend. All right. Okay, this section is part of a larger tutorial to build a QR code example app. So you need to build the front end before starting this task. That's right. So now that the front end code to create, save, edit, and delete QR code is ready, you'll need a database to store the QR code data and an API layer to connect the front end to the backend. Exactly. So here this is build the front end. Okay. Now here is build the app backend. Build the app backend. So what you learn important, because here in this section you will use, so for example here on the build the app frontend, what you will learn is, well, how you can use Node.js, React, Shopify App Bridge, and Polaris component to build your app frontend. However, here what you will learn, okay, is in this step you'll learn how to do the following: configure the database to store QR. Okay, configure configure the database to store the QR codes. Okay, to store QR codes. To store QR codes. Okay, and add the API layer for the app. Okay, and add the API layer for the app. Okay, cool, pretty straightforward. That's right. In fact, this actually is less, it's not that long, this section. Okay, and okay, so step one, configure the database. So the app needs a database to store the QR code details so that app users can view and edit the saved QR codes, and so that customers can use them. You can also track how many times customers scan QR codes by creating a public API endpoint. Exactly. You can also track how many times customers scan QR code by creating a public API endpoint and redirecting the customer to the product page or checkout in the online store. The database table includes the product and discount information, as well as the basic details such as the QR code. Okay, so the database tables include the product and discount information, as well as the basic details such as the QR code, name, ID, shop, and destination type. Okay. So the apps need a database to store QR codes details. Okay, so this is step. So the app needs a database to store QR code details. You can also track how many times customers scan QR codes by creating a public API endpoint and redirect the customer to the product page or checkout in the online store. This is two things here, right? So track how many times the customer scan QR code. Okay, let's say this is the features from here. So track how many times the customer scan the QR code. Redirecting the customer to the product page or checkout in the online store. Okay, so redirect the customer to the product page or the checkout in the online store. Okay, in the database tables, so this is now the data. Okay, this is now the data. So now this is the data. The database tables include the product and discount information. Okay, the database tables includes. So the database tables include product, discount data, discount information, discount product, discount, as well as QR code. QR code, all right, QR code name, QR code name, as well as QR code, as well as QR code name, ID, shop, and destination type. Destination type. Okay. All of that information is required to redirect the customer when they interact with the QR code image. Okay. So when the customer is required to redirect the customers when they interact with the QR code image. So when the customer interact with the QR code, this data will be used to redirect, exactly, to redirect them to a product page or checkout in the online store. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. All right. So add the code to interact with the database. In the web directory, create a new file called crcodebgs and add the following code. So this file interacts with the app's database and is used by the app REST API. They're using is SQLite 3 from Node, Path, and Shopify, which is a file from there. So default database file, they're using is pass join to actually find out the database file. That's right. Default purchase quantity 1. Okay, accounts they define here. Default purchase quantity. Okay. QR code DB, QR codes table names like QR codes, DB null and ready. And this is an object here. Okay. And this is the object. Create. So okay. QR code DB. So here they're exporting is this object will contain is the QR code table, the QR codes, database null, redis null. This is a function called create that is asynchronous, where you're gonna pass the shop domain, the title, the product ID, variant, handle, discount ID, discount code, and destination, which is part of the QR data. Okay, and then you're going to await until this is ready. Okay, you're going to await until this is ready, and meaning that you are ready, connect successfully to the database, and then create this query. Okay, insert into the QR codes database. Insert into. Okay, this is to create a new one. Okay, and then I'll wait for this raw results, and then you're going to return that, as well as the update. That's right, the same. You're going to pass this, and in this case, you're going to pass this. There is no need to pass the shop domain here because you already created that. And an update, you're going to await this. Okay, so once the database is ready, we can now is update our QR code. Update this QR code table data table name like this, and then you're going to await for this raw data. Well, actually, this is not raw data or raw results. It just only return when you create that. So it will return is the ID of that QR code once you create it, and here is returning is true once you create that QR code. The list, well, is going to exactly. So it will accept the shop domain and await this ready. And after that, well, you're going to get all the QR code from that domain and filter that results, where you're going to get is this.add image URL to the code QR, which is a private function for this that is specific to this object. Yeah, it is specific to this object. And also read, when you want to only read one element here, you're going to await for that data. You're going to await for the database is ready, and then you're going to perform the query to get just only one, and because you already have, so because it returns is rows, you're gonna check if the row actually exists, and if the row is different to 1, so you couldn't find that QR code. However, if not, well, you're going to add a URL image to this, and then the delete. Again, this is performing is the CRUD operations, performing CRUD operation, basic CRUD operation, but in one single object. Holy moly! So to create, the update, the list, read, and delete. And these are so destination URL for a QR code is generated at query time. Generate a QR code destination URL function QR code. Okay, if you remember, this is when it's going to generate is this QR code destination URL. Alright, so it can already scan that code. So with all the information from the host, as well as that the name, or in this case the shop, the store, the current store, okay, the host scheme, the current store, and the path of that QR listing, the QR code. And this image actually is generating is that exactly this image is actually generating is this QR code. Okay, the behavior when a QR code is scanned, like handle code scan, async function, this log the scan in the database. This is our functions increase scan code. Okay, but this is our private function. Exactly, private functions defined here. QR code destination URL, the behavior when a QR code is scanned, handle code scan, log the scan in the database, increase scan code. Okay. URL QR code.shop domain, and this is to handle QR code. The QR code redirects to the product view if the QR code destination contains that, the product, the checkout, and the default, so it will recognize destination, QR code destination, and then you have private. Use a check whether to create a database. Also used to make sure the database and tables are set up before the server start. Okay, this is private. Use a check whether to create a database. Exactly. Meaning is this a wait for this already. So use a check whether to create a database. Also used to make sure the database and tables are set up before the server start. It has QR code tables like this to verify if that actually exists. Okay, has QR code. And then initialize the connections with the app's SQLite database. So initialization. Again, an async function where here you're gonna ask for this database exists, the value of the database, which is a property from this object, where hey, if not, well, it's going to create that or initialize the connection and assign that. And has QR code tables, here you're gonna await for is there exists any QR code. If exists, okay, so this does ready is equal to resolve, okay, or then create the table. Exactly. Then create the table. This .QR code table name and all of this data like this with the ID, shop domain, title, product ID, variant ID, handle, discount. All right. Tell the various CRUD method that they can execute. Okay, and tell the various CRUD method that they can execute. This.ready is equal to this.query query. And now this is another private function. Perform a query on a database used by the various CRUD methods. And this is how you can interact with the database. That all where you're going to pass is the SQL, as well as the param. Okay. Okay. At the first time, it also receives the SQL and the params, which is the query. Okay. A very general function for the query is just to interact in an async way with the database. And then add a image URL. Here is when it's going to call this generate code URL image, which is a private method that is here, generate the QR code image, okay? And the function here with the Shopify API as well, it generates that. Here is generating the QR code image URL. Increase scan count and go to product view and go to product checkout. And then this is to generate the URL to a product page. The other is generate the URL to checkout like this. So when is this? So when this image is created, generate QR code image URL. Because you already, okay, because you already, when you save that QR code, so when you create that QR code, so when you save that QR code, it will generate is this URL preview. Destination URL code, generate QR code destination URL. But this is the generate QR code destination. Question is, all the information is required to redirect the customer when they interact with the QR code image. Exactly. But because it's on the front end, we are uploading that. Either a product page or popular car and a discount code. Preview the QR code destination and download the QR as an image. So on the form here, select a product for the QR. Select whether the QR code will point in a product or popular car. Include a discount. Preview the QR code destination. Download the QR code as an image file. Link to a product page, product discount. Okay, so if I go back to the backend here, okay, so this is just configure the database for that by creating is an object that will create the table and define the CRUD operation, as well as private method that it needs for that particular endpoint. Okay, so this is the way how they do this. Add the code to interact with the database. So to configure the database here, configure the database, Shopify examples describe, okay, holy moly. So Shopify examples describe that by creating an describe a good practice of defining an object that will define an object that will expose CRUD operations, that will expose, or that will define an object that will handle exactly define an object that will handle database connection, database connection, CRUD operations, and private and specific functions for that endpoint. Private and or helpers, we're going to see. So helper functions for that endpoint. Jesus, holy hell. So Shopify example describe a good practice, or describe in its example, define an object that will handle database connection, CRUD operations, helper functions for that endpoint, that will handle, defining an object that will handle database connection, CRUD operation, helper function for that endpoint, and expose that endpoint. No, only that. It's only that. And then step 2, add the API layer. Now that you have played the store, so now you have a place to store your app's data and code to query it, you will add the API layer so that the front end can access data. Okay. Add the file contains common functions used by the backend to format QR code data. Create a new folder called Web Helpers. In the new folders, create a new file called QR code and add the following code to the file. So Shopify.js, import the QR code DB, all right, which is the object that we create here to set up or to configure the database. So configure, define, it is like, it's not only configure, it's configure, okay, it's database connection, CRUD operations, and helper function for that endpoint. Okay, so here what you're doing is step 2 is add the API layer. So okay, let's go to back to the code. here and actually go here. So in the web directory, okay, in the web directory. So now you're gonna follow me along here, build the app here. That's right. So here on the web folder, so on the web folder, just like that, okay. So on the web folder, okay, so on the web folder, Jesus. So on the web folder, not the frontend, is here, okay, where you have the Shopify and the index. Under the web folder, so let me close all of this. Oh, come on, for real. It's going to clean our workplace, okay. So on the web here, this is where we're going to create this file, QR code database. Yes, again, this is to configure the database and interact with the database. Okay, so if we create a new, let's go to this, create a new file, QR code, let me, so QR code hyphen db.js, okay. So QR hyphen codes hyphen db.js. Here is what you're gonna do. Add the following code. Jesus. Oh my God. Holy moly. Alright. So these files interact with the apps database and it is used by the apps REST API. Okay, so it interacts with the apps database and is used by the apps REST API. Okay. Alright. So QR codes DB, like this. Create async functions for that. And again, here is the finding is this entire object with the QR code table's name, the database, and the ready function, as well as the CRUD operations, like create, where here is just returning is an ID, the update, where it return is true or false, okay, as well as the list, where it return is a list of QR codes. Here is when it return is one single QR code, and here's to delete that QR code. And right after that is some functionality specific for this QR code endpoints. I'm going to call that, right? So generate QR code destination URL, especially. So this is generated at query time, okay, like this. Generate QR code destination URL at query time and handle code scan, where here you are defining as a private method here to count the number of scan. Log the scan in the database and then create a new URL, alright, where once you detect the destination, if there is a product or a checkout, okay, where you're going to bind that, then is when you're going to this go product view. So you're going to redirect to that. Handle comes code scan, and here is the private methods. Okay, private method like increase scan count. For example, has QR code tables. Okay, this is used to check whether the created database also used to make sure the database and tables are set up before the server start. Has QR code tables. Okay, and then after that you have is the initialization. Okay, initialize the connection to the database. This.db, and new SQLite.database. Okay, ask if the code exists or if the table exists. All right, which is this. If the table exists, well, set this function or set this property to ready. If not, create the table, and then this is already this query like this. After all, it's creating is a promise for that. And on the query, what it's doing is just creating a new promise once it performs a query on the database, and add image URL here, QR code image URL like this, and generate the QR code image URL, increase scan count, but actually this is set scan to scan +1 is using that, and go to product view, or go to product checkout, where it's going to redirect to that product view URL. This is for redirection. Generate the URL to a product page, and generate the URL to a checkout with a product in the cart. Okay. So once I understand the bigger picture of this and save this file, okay, now go back to here, to the browser, to Shopify Dev Docs. Step 2, add the API layer. So now that you have place to store, now that you have a place to store your app data and codes to query it, you'll add the API layer so that the frontend can access to the data. Okay, add a file that contains common functions used by the backend to format QR codes. Create a new folder called Web Helpers, like this. So create a folder called Web Helpers. So if I go back to the code here, it's a folder called Helpers. Okay, and inside of this we're going to create a file called qrcode.js, which is adding the API layer. So the name of this will be qr-code, so qr-codes.js, and add the following code. So before adding this, let me now understand what's going on here. So import Shopify from shopify.js. Okay, so this file actually must be the entry point for all of that. Exactly. All right, and here this is the QR code database. Okay, the apps database stores the product ID and the discount ID. So this query is used to get the fields the frontend needs for those IDs. All right, anyway, so the apps database stores the product ID and the discount ID. Again, did I lose my shit? The apps database stores the product ID and the discount ID. Okay, this query is used to get the fields the frontend needs from those IDs. Okay, By querying the Shopify Graph, okay, because it's using GraphQL. Interesting. By querying the Shopify GraphQL admin API at runtime, data can become state. This is stale. Okay, or persistent. This data is also queried so that the full state can be saved on the database. This data is also queried so that the full state can be saved to the database in order to generate the QR code links. So because the using is Shopify GraphQL admin API here, which is this query nodes the IDs you're gonna pass here, which is required. Okay, so nodes IDs you're going to return is on product database the ID handle title image first one edge node URL, and on product variant the ID, and on discount code node. So I get it now because I already learned and create a GraphQL server for a small and simple e-commerce, and I know how important and how powerful it is to use GraphQL query for e-commerce, especially to only fetch the data that you want. GraphQL, after all, it solves two problems: underfetching, which is the server only sends relevant information, and overfetching is that we don't need to perform multiple queries, or we don't need to multiple queries to our database. So by having one centralized endpoint, we can hit that endpoint, ask the data that we want, and get it back. So reduce the number of HTTP requests you have to do, meaning improving the performance of your app. Export async functions, get QR code or 401, request and response. Okay, which is actually, this is an endpoint here. Check the domain is true, and here is where you're going to query the data, read the data, get QR code or 401, 404. So if the response is different to undefined, or the checkout here is different from the response shop domain, okay, domain that you're actually sending here, then you're going to send is a 404, or otherwise you're going to send the response, get the QR code or 404. And here is export async function to get shop URL from season. Expected body to contain title, string, product. Okay, this is for parse QR code body. Replace the product ID with product data queries from the Shopify Graph. Replace the product ID with product data query from the Shopify GraphQL admin API. Export async function form a QR code response. Counts IDs. Get every product variant and discount ID that was queried from the database. Okay, get every product variant and discount that was queried from the database. Raw code data for each. Okay, so you can get the product ID variant. Okay, replace the product ID with product data query from the Shopify GraphQL admin API. So here you have is the ID. Instantiate a new GraphQL client to create the Shopify GraphQL admin API. Format QR response. Parse QR code body. Format QR code response. Instantiate a new graph client to query the Shopify GraphQL admin API. Okay, to create a new client, instantiate a new GraphQL client to query the Shopify GraphQL admin API. Okay, because it's from the server. Query the Shopify GraphQL admin API with the data which contain the query QR code admin query, which is this. The ID that are pulled from the apps database are used to query products, variants, and discount information. So queries and variables from the IDs. Replace the product, discount, and variance ID with the data fetched using the Shopify GraphQL admin API. Replace the product, discounts, and variant ID with the data fetched using the Shopify GraphQL API. Formatted data, raw code data.map. Product is the admin data body.data nodes. Well, this is the admin data, okay? Nodes.find. And here you're going to find if that QR code product ID is the same as the node ID. Or assign the title like delete product. If that doesn't exist, okay, formatted data, Jesus. Count discount deleted, QR code discount if admin data body the data nodes. So you're going to see if the QR code to check, Jesus. Replace the product discount and variant ID with the data fetched using the Shopify GraphQL admin API. If that exists, so if the product does not exist, it's because it's deleted. Or the discount was deleted. Exactly. If discount deleted, a user might create a QR code with a discount code and then later delete the discount code. A user might create a QR code with a discount code and then later delete that discount code. For optimal UX, it is important to handle that edge case. Use mock data so that the front end knows how to interpret this QR code. If this discounted deleted, QR code DB updates QR code ID. Okay, to handle this, if the discount is deleted, so you're going to update that. Merge the data from the app's database with the data query from the Shopify GraphQL admin API. Formatted QR code, which contains the QR code, the product, and the discount count. Formatted QR code. And since the product ID already exists, product isn't required. So you delete this from that, and then you return the formatted code. And all of this, holy moly, return the formatted code, and all of this is just to replace the product discount and variant ID with the data fetch using the Shopify GraphQL admin API. meaning, so replace the product discount and varying ID. I'm replacing is the product discount and varying ID with data fetch using the Shopify GraphQL API. Formatted data. Okay. Formatted data. Formatted data that you're gonna use. Okay, formatted data. Because this is the communication that you're doing, or this is the data that you're doing here. Okay, once you get that, exactly, format QR code response. Holy moly. So format the QR code response. So replace the product ID with product data query from the Shopify GraphQL API. So now the client can consume that. Mother. Okay. So on the server side, it's doing a lot of heavy lifting. So on the server side, is doing a lot of this heavy lifting. Mother. Okay. All right, and then you're going to return. Here is the formatted data. Data from this formatted data. Format QR code response. Okay, which is something that you should use here. Parse QR code body and get QR code or 401, 404. QR code, read that. Get shop URL from season. Get shop URL from season. And this is expect body to contain title. Expect body to contain title, product ID, variant ID, handle, discount code, destination. Replace the product ID with product data. But where are you using this? Format QR code to response. So create a middleware to serve the API requests from the frontend. The apps use authentication endpoints to create, update, delete, and view stored QR codes. Create a new folder called Web Middleware, where you're going to create a middleware to serve the API requests from the frontend. Okay, and add the following code. The custom REST API to support the app frontend. Handlers combine application data from QR code db.js with helpers to merge the Shopify GraphQL API. The shop is the shop that the current users belong to. So for example, the shop that is using the app. This information is retrieved from the authorization headers, which is the code from the request. The authorization header is added by app bridge in the frontend code. Okay, so this is the QR code API. So it's using Express, and this is where you can do expose that route. Shopify QR code DB. All right, this configuration. Get QR code 401. Get your shop URL from season, and this is our helper functions. Okay, this is our helper functions. Jesus. Format QR code response. Okay, so shop data query here. Where is shop data? And this is the exact. So query shop data, code discount nodes, on discount code bigs, on discount code free shipping. And now this is where you started to apply CRUD API endpoints. Okay, now you have the app, where the app here is something that you're going to receive your web server. You're gonna use the JSON. This is a middleware to parse any request to a JSON object. Okay, and then this is where you define the route. Because the using is expressed for that. app.get/API shop data. Okay, this is a one endpoint, where here you're going to connect or to create a new GraphQL client with that season, and to fetch shop data, including all available discounts to list in the QR code form. So shop data. So the custom REST API to support the app frontend handles combined application data from the QR code db.js with helpers to merge the Shopify GraphQL admin API data. Exactly. So those handlers that we defined earlier, or that I looked earlier, is just to combine the application data from the QR code JS in here with helpers to merge the Shopify GraphQL admin API data. So the shop is the shop that current user belongs to, and for example, the shop that is using the app. This information is retrieved from the authorization header, which is decoded from the request, and the authorization header is added by app bridge in the frontend code. There's a lot of moving part here. Okay, so these handlers that we defined earlier combines the application data from QR code DB with helpers to merge the Shopify GraphQL API. Okay, it helps to combine the application data to and merge with the Shopify GraphQL admin API data. So if we're using is this function, apply QR code API endpoints, okay, meaning to set that a QR code API endpoints. Here's where you connect or create a new client instance where you're going to fetch the stored data. Here, where you're going to query that data. Okay, shop data, and shop body.data will contain is this a query and the variables. Where it will have is this query. Again, this is to merge the Shopify GraphQL admin API data. Okay. And here you have is to fetch shop data, including all available discounts to list in the QR code, as well as the post to actually create QR codes. Well, that's right, when you have to create QR codes. And here you're going to wait for that. Get the shop from the authorization header to prevent user from spoofing data. Get the shop from the authorization header to prevent user from spoofing data. Shop domain and wait get shop URL from season. Which is a helper function. Get shop URL from season. And if you remember, this is from here, get shop URL from season. A function that we define here. Okay, get shop URL from season, where here you're going to get that res.locals.shopify.season.shops. Okay, which is part of the response by analyzing is that header from prevent user from spoofing. Okay, and then comes response await format QR code response. So this is where this data comes from. Okay, format QR code response. So you're gonna pass this request and response as well as an array of queries. So if we take a look at the format QR code response, like this, raw code data. Okay, raw code data. Like raw code data. Like this. So raw code data. All right. What you're gonna get is the entire QR code. Okay. And here's when you're going to format that. Replace the product ID with the product data query from the Shopify GraphQL admin query. And here, because you have that, this is when you're going to query that. This is what you're going to query that here on product and on variant. Oh my god. And okay, get the shop from the authorization headers to prevent user from spoofing the data like that. Okay, so yes, it's this. It's format QR code response, and after that you're gonna get a response that merge the Shopify admin that merge the the product data from the Shopify GraphQL admin API. So it replaced the product ID with product data query from the Shopify GraphQL API. Okay, so once you get this product ID with the product data, now it will query the Shopify GraphQL admin API. Holy sh! Which is doing here. So by doing this, it's making it so this format QR code response is in a GraphQL query like. So once you get that, all right, then is where you're gonna actually send that QR query. If not, you're going to send an error message. That actually it comes from the catch by using a try and catch. The other is patch. Interesting that they use patch or not put. Okay, add the patch. Get the QR query. If the QR code exists, then you're going to update that. This is if you want to read a QR code. Okay, the first is to get the API shop data. The API shop data. Okay, the shop data. The shop data. Now here is the create, the update, the read, and the I get the list. Okay, to get the list, that's right, as well as the read one single QR code, and the delete. Holy moly. And step 3, connect the database and API endpoints to the server. So, okay, so let me now, so since I already configured the database, okay, where my notes here are in that file, it focuses on database connection, the CRUD operation, and helper function for that endpoint. Okay, and the step 2 is add the API layer, which is on the, this is on the step 1, configure the database. Okay, configure the database, step 1. Configure the database. And step 2, Jesus. And step 2, like this. And step 2, add the API layer. So here is creating, add a file that contains common functionality used by the backend to format QR code. Okay, so please no without anything of this. In fact, this is a normal text. So add a file that contains common function used by backend to format the QR code data. So helper functions to format QR code data and merge with the Shopify GraphQL admin. Shopify GraphQL admin API, exactly. So helper functions to format QR code data like this, format QR code data and merge with Shopify GraphQL admin API. Why is this important? Because it is part of the network optimizations. Okay. Jesus. Okay, so let's go for it. Helper function define a QR code.js. All right. So if I go back to the code here, oh come on. If I go back to the code here, and then I add the following code here, again, this is the common functions used by the backend to format QR code data emerge from the Shopify graph and merge with the Shopify admin and merge with the Shopify GraphQL admin API. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to create the middleware. Okay. After this is to create the middleware. So is this. So add a file that contains common functionality. So this helper functions. Oh, come on, man. What the hell? Okay. And then is this. Oops. Oh. It already bring the anchor link. No. And then is the create. Okay. And then is the with a normal here. So create the middleware to serve the API requests. API. Okay. So create the middleware to create the API request from the front end. So create a new folder called web middleware here. Okay, this is when we're going to define is our API. So middleware, folders. Okay. So step 2 is add the API layer. First is defining is the helper functions used by the backend to format the QR code data and merge with the Shopify GraphQL admin API. And after that is defining the middleware, okay, that will serve the API request from the front end. So create the middleware to serve the API request from the front end. So here, by defining is this middleware, and the name of this folder will be QR code APIs, like this. So QR codes hyphen API.js, right? It's QR code because this is the endpoint. QR codes API, and with the following code here. Let me save this helper function here. Okay. And now this is when you expose, create a middleware to serve the API request from the front end. Okay. Here is on the middleware where you create that. In step 3, connect the database and API endpoints to the server. Okay. And then step 3 is connect the database and API endpoints to the server. So update your server configurations to use the new database configuration and API endpoints. Okay. So connect the database here. Step 3, now if I go back to the browser here, so step 3 is this. So step 3, connect the database and API endpoints to the server. So step 3, connect the database and endpoints to the server. Okay. What? No. Wait. What is this? Is this? Okay. Connect the database and endpoints to the server. To the server. Oh, come on, man. What you do? All right. So connect the database here. Import the database files you create in the Shopify app configuration. Import the database configuration you create in the previous steps and the SQLite package. So this is on the Shopify. This is where we're going to connect the database. Delete the default database configuration included in the notes template and replace it with your QR code DB configuration. Meaning is, this is the Shopify. Okay, and replace with your configuration. Initialize SQL database as well as the database here. Okay. Delete the default database configuration. So let's go one step at a time. So on the Shopify.js here, what we're gonna do is to connect the is to connect. Yeah, is to connect this on the. Now let me close this and this and this and that. Go to the Shopify GS. Okay, the entry point for Shopify. So Shopify GS here. That's right. And here we're going to import the database configuration that you have created in the previous step and the SQLite package. So by default it's using SQLite. Okay, so by default it's using SQLite. So here we can do is this, import the SQLite 3, which is the database, as well as the join from Node.js and the database configuration for the QR codes. What is doing behind the scene is creating the QR code tables, as well as allowed to perform the CRUD operations to SQL 3 database, and keep track of the number of scans performed by the user, as well as other details. All right, so delete the default database configuration include in the node templates and replace it with your QR code DB configuration. Great. So here, okay, right below here, so what we have to do is this. Define a variable called database. Okay, so we're going to define this. Define a const database where you're going to create the database with the database SQLite. Okay, you're gonna find that database SQLite folder, which is this, and of course the file is not displaying the text editor because it's either binary or use an unsupported text encoding. Must be binary. Okay, so what you're gonna do is to create a variable called database that will import this configuration from the database SQLite. Okay, and then on the configuration QR CodeDB the database here is where you're going to assign the database variable, in this case the const. Why? Because now this object, this QR codes database, contains now the configuration, and you're going to know what is the database that will allow you to perform is the queries to the database. Okay, the CRUD operations, as well as other operations such as keep track of the number of scan core, or keep track the number of code scanned by user. Okay, and then initialize. Okay, and then initialize the QR code DB. Then initialize the database. Then, when it comes to Shopify configuration, you will leave almost all of that with no change. Okay, the only thing that you're gonna do is now pass is the database here, which is this database. where you are here creating is a new season storage. Okay. That communicate with the Shopify admin API. And remove is this. All right. So this is just to add the configuration for the QR code to the database. They add the QR code database configurations to Shopify. So Shopify now is aware of this. It's like, oh, all right, okay. And now add the API endpoints. So after you update your server configuration, you can replace the templates product creator with the new API endpoints. That's right. So after you update your server configuration, you can replace the templates product creator with the new API endpoints. Templates product creators, okay, with the new API endpoints. Delete the web product creator.js. Okay, because you're replacing the app's front end, the file is no longer needed. All right. Again, what I'm doing right now is reading the documentation here, the Shopify dev docs. Okay, delete the web product creators because we're no longer needed. Open the index and replace the product creators important statement with the API endpoint that you created in the previous step, which is adding the API layer once we define the middleware, which is this, exactly, middleware QR code APIs. And let's replace the template products endpoint. Okay, so replace the template products endpoint with the apply QR code API endpoint functions defining your middleware. Okay, because no longer we need to do this, so we're not going to modify products here. In fact, we're going to apply is this new middleware, the QR code API endpoints. So the file should look like this. So this index, which contains is this information, okay. So the web index is the is the Express application, and the other was the Shopify configuration. Okay. Okay. So add the API endpoint. So here let's go to remove that file here, web product creators. Okay. If I go back here to the code, so let me remove is this product creator. Okay, let me change now to the proper workplace, the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so web product creators, let's go to delete that. Make sure that you delete that properly. Web over here, web product creator, that's right. Yeah, this is our functions to, is interacting with the Shopify admin API GraphQL. But it's interacting with the Shopify GraphQL APIs. The Shopify admin GraphQL API. That means this. The GraphQL query error is this: random title, random price, as well as some helper functions. Okay. All right. So, bye-bye. Take care. It was a pleasure. Okay. And then open the index, the web index where this is where our Express application live. Okay, that's right, the app Express application live, and Express application live join read file sync Express server static Shopify product creator, and here, that's right, again, just to make a quick overview of this, it actually using Express as well as server static, which is a particular npm library for them. Shopify importing the Shopify index or entry point product creator, which is part of the API endpoints. GDPR webhook handlers, okay, as well as defining the port that you need or you like to use. If there are any environment variable defined here at the backend port, or here static path like this, so process.m.node environments is equal to the production. Okay, to define this, especially when you're going to build the front end for production or development. This is where you now use the Express application or the server side. Again, Express is being used here because it is very good at handling routes. So it abstracts the layer of doing that tedious and monotonous task, such as reading the parameter of a query, or define different routes, or you customize the way how you respond, which is not bad. It's important to understand how Express works behind the scenes so you can understand the value it provides. So set up Shopify authentication and webhook handling. That's right. Here. Okay. And right below here, if you're adding routes outside of the API path, remember to also add the proxy rules for them in web frontend v.config.js. So this is where now all of these products were no longer needed. Endpoints are defined. So the whole point of this is to replace the product creator import statement with this API endpoint, which is in our case is this. All right, and we're going to remove is the products from here. According to the documentation, product counts create, product counts and create, right? Take care, bye bye. And let's go into replace that with this. So apply CRUD API endpoints like this. So what it's doing behind the scene, if you remember, is to extend the Express applications, make use of the JSON, and defining inside of this is the CRUD operations, like necessary data for getting the shop data from Shopify, as well as the API QR codes for create a new code. So for create a new QR code, update an existing one, get the list of or get a list of all QR codes, get a single or read a single QR code, as well as delete. So once we call this function, this is what we're doing: apply QR code API endpoints. Okay, and the file should look like the following. Exactly. To express JSON, use server static, cap headers. All inputs after this point will require an active session. So what I'm doing here is just to look at the documentation here and to make sure that we change the proper line of code, which is this. Okay, and we have something like this app use Shopify cap headers, scale season, and use for all routes Shopify ensure install on shops, and then listen for that port. Okay, and that'll be all. Now, holding. And that'll be all now for building the backend. Okay. So that'll be all for this video. Take care. Bye-bye.